out how to change outcomes. We can't change outcomes unless we do that. Sometimes our first inclination when we see people who are being disparately affected is that we want to do something charitable. We want to do something good. We want to feed the hungry. And that's a very good impulse, because we wouldn't be human beings that were kind and compassionate if we didn't want to do that. But it doesn't get to the root of the problem. It doesn't change the systems that created that to begin with. Jeffrey Canada, who founded the Harlem Children's Zone, some of you may have heard him speak, and he's an amazing speaker, and he tells the parable of the river babies. And he says, there's a group of people having a picnic next to the river, and somebody looks over and there's a baby struggling in the river, and it's going to drown if they don't save it. So, of course, somebody jumps into the river and saves the baby. And then they go back, and then they look up, and before they know it, a couple more babies are coming down the river, and it's just horrible. They just keep going, and they keep taking babies out of the river, and then before you know it, they say, we have to get organized about this. We have to create an efficient system so we make sure we can save all the babies that are coming down the river. And then when they got their system set up, a couple of people break away and they start running upriver. And they said, wait a minute, where are you going? Aren't you going to help us get the babies out of the river? And they said, we're going to go look and see who's throwing them in. And that's the root cause. That's looking at root causes. It's good to be doing that. It's good to be doing that, but we've got to be looking at root causes. When we've seen examples of communities that looked at root causes when they did their work, we've seen different kinds of outcomes in their work. A couple of examples. In Montgomery County, Maryland, where a group of people has been having dialogue on the intersections between equity and racialized outcomes of school scores, test scores. They've been bringing people into dialogue on this issue for 10 years now. And part of what has happened is that white teachers have had a chance to talk about and uncover their unconscious bias. And so they realize the different levels of expectation that unwittingly they were holding for children of color and for white children in the classroom. But it's not just one teacher. One teacher, that would be great. That would be great. But it's teachers across many schools who are working on this. And it's teachers of all ethnic backgrounds. And they're sitting down together and they're teaching each other and they're learning from the students so that they can actually create a supportive community of having different classroom practice. That is a way to look at a root cause and to address something, but not just address a symptom, but actually to address the cause. In Stratford, Connecticut, there were community police tensions that had happened there over incidents with African American residents of the community and white police officers. And they decided what they needed to do is to put community police officers in training about equity so that community police officers could realize how they were enforcing the law in disparate ways. So that could lead to different kinds of outcomes on the street, so that people could actually be policed differently and more fairly across the community. In Albuquerque, New Mexico, where we've been working, a group of people got together based on the dialogues, and they realized that community engagement policies for the school system worked for the white parents, but they weren't working for communities of color because they weren't taking languages and cultural norms into account in terms of being user-friendly parent engagement policies. They not only proposed that to the school system, but they worked with people inside the school system and they got that community engagement policy pushed through. And now they're working to push through an idea for multicultural curriculum so that children who go to school can actually learn about their own culture so that they can be part of the beloved community. Our fourth and final guidepost says we need to stick with this. This is a long-term journey. I don't have a slide for this. And so I have to tell you, last night when I realized that, I said to myself, this can stand for looking at root causes, and it can also stand for being grounded and enduring like a tree. Because I think that's what we need to be doing. We need to be, whatever image works for you, you all in this room know this is hard work. It is hard to speak the truth. It is hard to counter racism. It is hard to look at root causes. It's hard to look at our history. We have to take risks, and it takes courage, and it takes persistence, and it takes truth-telling with each other, and it also takes truth-telling about ourselves. We have to look inside ourselves and tell the truth to ourselves. And we have to be courageous about talking to the people that we have relationships with and tell them the truth and trust them to try to go there with us. So, this is our 100-year work, right? This is our 100-year work. It takes honesty, it takes responsibility, it takes respect. We need each other. We need each other. We can't go there alone. We can't go to the beloved community alone. We also need to make sure that self-care is part of the journey, because it's hard work. We need to care for each other. I'm going to ask you that as you're creating this beloved community and doing it out of the faith that even when you're not here 100 years from now, Lynchburg of 2113 is going to be a different place. I'm going to ask you that as you're doing that to approximate the beloved community where you are. Care for each other. Because that's how we'll get here. That's how we'll get there from here. So I want to say also that you're persevering here in Lynchburg. This picture actually comes from a national learning exchange that Everyday Democracy convened last October in Baltimore, where community leaders, including Leslie and Lakeisha, came to Baltimore to be part of a learning exchange among community leaders all over the country who were addressing racial injustices, connecting those injustices to communities of change, looking at the vision of the future. And they were taking care of each other, and they were learning from each other. And so what you were doing here in Lynchburg is you were supplying lessons that were going to communities all over the country. And so I want to name today that you are helping not only what's happening here, but you are helping others across the country do their work. Today's conference is an important step. You're helping connect what happened in the dialogue to thinking about tools for systemic change. That's why you're doing this. What you're doing is persisting, and that's important. So I just want to close by saying thank you again. I truly believe that by 2113, people can be in this space, and they can look back, and they can say, thank God those people paid attention. They understood where they had been. They understood how we got here. They understood systems. They took the time to understand systems. They took the time to tell the truth. They took the time to call out lies. They took the time to create a beloved community. Thanks again.
Wow. That's how you become an ally, right there. Speaking truth. I was touched. Thank you, Mark. So next on our agenda, we have our workshops will be beginning in the next 8 minutes. I have 6 minutes now. And we have a number of workshops that you can choose from. And I just want to give you some direction on where to go. We're on the 3rd floor. So the workshops, 2 workshops on the 5th floor, which means you can go up on the stairs or you can take an elevator. and there's an elevator, and there are people outside who will direct you to an elevator if for some reason you're unable to take the stairs to the next sessions. And the next sessions will be from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., and then you'll have a break from 11 a.m. to 11:10 a.m. And then we will continue with the following sessions from 11:10 to 12:10, and then we'll have lunch. Well, we have another break, and then we'll have lunch at 12:30, and lunch is in Smith Hall. And Smith is actually in the front of the campus. So you may, have to move your car if you'd like to, or you can walk, depending on what you want to do there. But Smith is when you come into the main campus. It's the first building to your left. And the speaker for our afternoon lunch will be Professor Warnie Reed. And just briefly before I go on, I'm just internally really excited. It's nice to have a vision for something and see it come to fruition. And I also want to just recognize, because some of you may not be here the whole day, all of the committee members and the advisory board that's been involved with the planning of this event. So if you're in here, I know there's some folks out in the lobby, if you could just stand. If you're a member of the Community Education Committee, you're a member of the advisory board, and I believe that other people are out in the hallway. It's been a lot of hard work, but it's also rewarding at the same time, and we still love each other in the process. And we all have jobs, so we did this in addition to our regular jobs. So again, I want to thank you for coming this morning and give you a couple of minutes and for the workshop presenters to get prepared for their workshops. Yes? Yes, there's actually an agenda. If you didn't pick up an agenda, there's an agenda out in the lobby with the descriptions of each workshop and the workshop presenters. So please feel free to pick up one of those. Thanks.